Before the middle of the 15th century, the world of knowledge was a very different place. It was a quieter, slower world where ideas moved at the pace of a person walking or a horse trotting. Books were not common objects found in every home. Instead, they were rare treasures, painstakingly created by hand. Monks, known as scribes, would sit for countless hours in quiet rooms called scriptoriums. With a quill dipped in ink, they would copy each letter, each word, and each sentence from an old book onto a new clean page of parchment or vellum. This was a labor of immense dedication and skill, but it was incredibly slow and laborious. Creating a single copy of a book, such as the Bible, could take months or even years to complete. Because of this immense effort, books were extraordinarily expensive. Only the very wealthy, like kings, nobles, and the highest ranks of the church, could afford to own them. A library might consist of only a handful of volumes, each one chained to a desk to prevent theft. For the vast majority of people, the knowledge contained within these precious books was completely out of reach. Their understanding of the world was limited to what they were told by others, passed down through spoken stories and sermons. It was a world where information was a privilege, not a widespread right. The materials themselves added to the cost and rarity of these early books. Parchment was made from the treated skin of animals, like sheep or goats, and preparing it was a long and difficult process. Each page represented a significant investment of resources. The inks were made from natural substances such as soot, berries, or crushed minerals, mixed with a binder like egg white or gum arabic. Every part of the book was a product of natural resources and intense human labor. This made each manuscript a unique work of art, but it also ensured that knowledge remained concentrated in the hands of a very small elite group of people. This slow and deliberate method of sharing information meant that new ideas traveled at a crawl. A scientific discovery or a philosophical thought might take decades or even centuries to spread from one part of Europe to another. Errors could also creep into the texts with each new copy, as a tired scribe might misread a word or make a small mistake. There was no way to ensure that two copies of the same book were truly identical. The world was waiting, unknowingly, for a revolution. It needed a new way to share ideas quickly, accurately, and widely. A mechanism that could turn a single voice into a chorus heard by thousands. In the city of Mainz, Germany, around the year 1440, a remarkable breakthrough occurred. A goldsmith and inventor named Johannes Gutenberg began to work on a secret project that would change the course of human history forever. He was a skilled craftsman, familiar with working with metals, and he saw a possibility that others had missed. He envisioned a way to mechanize the process of copying texts, to make it faster and more efficient than any scribe could ever hope to be. His goal was to create multiple, identical copies of a text at a fraction of the time and cost. This was the dawn of the printing press in Europe. Gutenberg's invention was not a single idea, but a brilliant combination of several innovations. The most important of these was movable type. He created individual letters and symbols out of a metal alloy, a mix of lead, tin, and antimony. These small metal pieces could be arranged and rearranged to form any word, sentence, or page of text. Unlike the fixed wooden blocks used for printing in Asia much earlier, this movable type was durable and could be used over and over again. He designed a special handheld mold that allowed him to cast these metal letters with great precision and speed, ensuring they were all of a uniform height. The process itself was a marvel of ingenuity. First, a compositor would arrange the individual metal letters into lines of text on a composing stick. These lines were then locked together into a large frame called a form, creating an entire page. Next, workers would apply a special oil-based ink to the surface of the type. This ink was another of Gutenberg's key developments. It was thick enough to stick to the metal type, but not so thick that it would smudge the paper. Finally, a sheet of paper was laid over the inked type, and the entire assembly was slid under a large wooden screw press. This press, adapted from those used to make wine or press paper, applied firm, even pressure across the page. The pressure transferred the ink from the metal letters onto the paper, creating a clean, clear impression. The sheet was then removed to dry. and the process could be repeated hundreds or even thousands of times in a single day. What had once taken a scribe months to produce by hand could now be accomplished in a matter of hours. This was not just an improvement, it was a complete transformation of how information could be reproduced and shared among people. The impact of the printing press was immediate and profound. Suddenly, books were no longer the exclusive property of the rich and powerful. As printers began setting up shops in cities across Europe, the cost of producing books plummeted. A printed book could be made for a fraction of the cost of a hand-copied manuscript. This meant that knowledge, for the first time in history, became accessible to a much wider audience. Merchants, craftsmen, and even some prosperous farmers could now afford to buy books. The world of ideas was no longer confined to monasteries and palaces. It was flowing into the homes of ordinary people. One of the very first and most famous books to be printed using Gutenberg's new machine was the Bible. The Gutenberg Bible, printed around 1455, was a masterpiece of the new technology. It demonstrated that the press could produce works of incredible beauty and quality, rivaling the finest manuscripts. But soon, printers moved beyond religious texts. They began to print all sorts of materials: scientific papers, philosophical essays, ancient classics from Greece and Rome, and even pamphlets about current events. This variety of printed matter fueled a growing hunger for information and sparked curiosity about the world in a way that had never been possible before. This newfound availability of books had a powerful effect on literacy. Before the press, there was little incentive for most people to learn how to read, as there was simply nothing for them to read. But as books became cheaper and more common, literacy rates began to climb. More people wanted to unlock the secrets held within these printed pages. Schools and universities began to flourish as students now had access to textbooks. Learning was no longer dependent solely on the memory and lectures of a single teacher. Students could read, study, and debate ideas from a variety of sources, leading to a more dynamic and critical approach to education. The spread of knowledge accelerated at an astonishing rate. An idea born in Italy could be printed and read in England or Spain within a matter of weeks, not decades. This rapid exchange of information was the fuel that powered the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the scientific revolution. Scientists like Copernicus and Galileo could share their groundbreaking discoveries with a wide audience, inviting debate and further investigation. Religious reformers like Martin Luther could print their arguments and distribute them far and wide, challenging the established order. The printing press had opened the floodgates, and a torrent of knowledge was reshaping the continent. The printing press did more than just make old knowledge more accessible. It fundamentally changed how human beings thought and communicated. It standardized information. Before print, every hand-copied book was slightly different, with its own unique errors and variations. The press created hundreds or thousands of identical copies, meaning that people in different cities or countries could be sure they were reading and debating the exact same text. This standardization was crucial for the development of modern science, law, and scholarship. It created a common ground for intellectual discussion across vast distances, uniting thinkers in a shared world of ideas. Furthermore, the press gave rise to new forms of communication and community. The newspaper was born from the ability to quickly print and distribute information about recent events. People could now stay informed about politics, wars, and trade in a way that was previously unimaginable. This created a more informed public and laid the groundwork for modern concepts of democracy and citizenship. It also helped to standardize languages, as printers chose certain dialects to publish in. Those forms of German, French, or English became the standard, helping to shape the national identities we know today. This revolution in communication irrevocably altered the balance of power in society. The monopoly on information once held by the church and the state was broken. Rulers and religious authorities could no longer completely control what people knew and thought. While they tried to censor and ban books, the sheer volume of printed material made this an impossible task. The press empowered individuals to question authority, to form their own opinions, and to share those opinions with others. It was a powerful tool for social and political change, giving a voice to those who had previously been silent and unheard. In the end, the invention of the printing press was one of the most significant events in human history. It was the mechanism that pulled Europe out of the Middle Ages and into the modern era. It democratized knowledge, fueled revolutions in science, religion, and politics, and connected the world in a web of shared information. Every book we read, every newspaper we scan, and even the digital text we see on our screens today is a direct descendant of Johannes Gutenberg's brilliant machine. It is a legacy written in ink and paper, a testament to the extraordinary power of an idea to change the world forever.